Welcome everyone. I think I'm live. If you can hear me, please let me know in the chat. Yay, it works. Amazing. So, hi everyone. I have not been live for a little while and I just wanted to come in and check in and see how you guys all are. It takes a lot of discipline to go live every day. I've really noticed that. I've noticed myself in my attempts to go live every day, what I end up telling myself to not go live that day, even though when I'm here, I clearly love it. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot about myself. And specifically, when it comes to creativity and expression, my own levels of discipline. That's what I'm really noticing. And consistency, discipline and consistency, which often when you think of creativity, you don't necessarily think about discipline, but actually, I'm really noticing the importance of discipline and structure and consistency in order to allow for the greater expansion of creativity. And for me, that's like the consistency and the discipline and the structure is like the masculine energy, and then the creativity and the flow and the expansion and the spiraling is like the feminine energy. So at the moment, I'm really working to unite the two, bring them together. And I've been doing a lot of work on my masculine structures. So in terms of the structure of my organization, my business, and really looking at what I need in terms of creating consistency to allow me to be more creative in my work and in what I do. So welcome. And today I'm actually live streaming to YouTube at the same time, which again, I had a really big block around. I had a really, had a bit of a like bias towards just live streaming for you guys in Womb Room. And then there was this voice that was like, well, actually, there's people that are not in Womb Room because they don't know about this private group, which if you're watching this, it's my private group for on Facebook, on the Facebook platform. And there's a lot of people that might resonate or might hear something that they need to hear for their healing journey. And I was like, oh, well, I have to have perfect videos if I go on YouTube, and I have to have this perfect filming setup. And I was really over investing in the idea of perfection. And what I was doing as I was over investing in the idea of perfection and needing to be perfect for YouTube was I was postponing my own expression and potentially hiding my own authenticity, because this is how I speak, this is how I am. So why should I change it for a platform? You know how I am with you guys here in YouTube, here in Womb Room is the same as how I want to be on YouTube. I just want to be me, right? So good morning to those of you who've joined. I was like, I have to get this live stream in before it hits midday, because then I can still say good morning. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about authenticity, expression, connection. So some of you would have seen my latest Facebook post where I talked about my own journey towards getting my parents in a deeper connection with me, allowing a deeper understanding. So my journey into healing was a journey. I came from a corporate world. I came from I did an economics and politics degree at university. Then I went into banking. Then I went into technology. I was in tech for about 10 years. And to suddenly give that up, or it seemed sudden from the outside, to then pursue the therapeutic world, counselling and craniosacral therapy, and then energy healing. From the outside, it looked really bizarre because I didn't share the inner work that I was doing. I didn't share my inner journey and everything I was doing while I was still in tech to develop myself and to heal myself, because I wasn't in the environment where I felt like anybody wanted to know. So I kind of kept it in, especially with my family. So from the outside, they just saw this, okay, she's just suddenly decided to give up her tech career, and now she's doing something like we can't even pronounce it, and this is completely mad, and how is she going to make any money? Maybe she's having a midlife crisis, right? So there was this point where I hid what I was doing for a long time, and I just pretended I was working in tech, but I wasn't. I pretended I was going to work every day in a tech company, but I actually was working in my practice and building my practice, but I was doing it literally on my own, like, because I didn't believe that anybody would support my decision. Now, I'm here to talk about how I went from that place to being so much more accepting of myself and feeling so much more accepted by my parents in particular. And their kind of perspective of healing and energy work was that it was all a little bit esoteric and very far-fetched for them. It potentially conflicted with their religious ideologies around what around their paradigm of reality, right? And for those of you who are healers or creatives or therapists that are doing something very, very out of the box, and you come from traditional backgrounds like me, you will know that there is a big disjoint between the paradigms of reality that you live in versus where your parents and your family perhaps live in, right? So I came from that background, and at the beginning of my journey, I hid everything that I did. I pretended to be doing something that I wasn't, and I had a lot of fear about judgment and being judged because there was a lot of perception that I was doing the devil's work and that it was haram and that it was un-Islamic, and I come from an Islamic background. So there was a lot of misunderstanding about what trauma is and what trauma healing looks like and what somatic integration looks like and what energy healing actually is, and that it is inherently part of all religious and spiritual traditions teach energy practices, right? Prayer is a practice of energy transmission, right? And for me, it was really clear, but I had this fear of not being understood and of being misunderstood and misrepresented, particularly by my own parents. Why? Because they are so close to me. Like, I love them so, so much. They're the two people in the world I really wanted to understand me. And they're the two people in the world who at the beginning of my journey just really didn't, right? So I would hear a lot of things from my dad, not so much, because I started to treat him with craniosacral therapy quite early because he was suffering from gout. So I was giving him treatment, and he was getting better very rapidly and not having to take very strong painkillers from the doctor. So he was getting the live proof of what this work is about and how it could help him. But my mum was a lot more resistant. And I kept trying to get her to come for healing, and there was a lot of resistance to coming. And therefore, if you're resistant to having your own experience, then you can't easily change your paradigm of reality because you don't have the experience to allow you to reorientate your perception and your embodied experience of anything, right? Because it's all up in here, it's all conceptual. So her journey took a little bit longer, and during that time I had to deal with a lot of kind of this like covert criticism of what I was doing, even though she didn't really have an understanding of what I was doing, right? Because she'd never had an experience of it or what was possible. So I had a lot of fear of my parents telling me that I was implicitly telling me that I was doing something wrong. It was the devil's work, blah, blah, blah. And feeling a lot of heaviness around that, and a lot of grief as well around that. Wow, I found my purpose. I'm deeper in myself than I've ever been. I'm more fulfilled than I have been in any other career, and it seems to be causing people externally so much discomfort and so much like just unease, which is really interesting because I feel more at ease than I've ever felt. So there's this disconnect, right? And I really wanted to harmonize the disconnect. So those of you who are in the healing world, or who are doing this kind of trainings that take you into your inner realms, where you start to really develop and cultivate inner perception and inner knowledge, and you start to feel deeper, you might also be noticing in your relationships with people and family members, etc., you might also be noticing this kind of disconnect where you don't really know, like the way that you're connecting is changing. So for me, I could definitely feel that. And eventually the pressure was building, and I would often get quite upset and cry and like tell friends like, this is really hard because I really want them to understand me, and they're never going to understand me. And that was my big thing, that I will never be understood, right? Because for me, understanding was connection. Therefore, there was the grief of I will never be able to connect with my parents for who I am now. And I'm even closer to who I really am than I was when I was working in banking and working in tech, right? Because I didn't have self-knowledge, I didn't have self-experience, I didn't have the ability to self-reflect at a deep level. I wasn't in my spiritual truth. And so allowing myself to recognize, first of all, that I did want to reconnect was the beginning of a journey into really connecting with them at a much deeper level. So first, I just allowed myself to express my truth, which is that this is painful for me, and it hurts to have this disconnection where they believe a certain thing and they have a certain perception about me, and I have a completely different perception of myself, and we don't meet in the middle. We kind of just avoid this middle space, this middle ground, right? So I would say things like, and I remember saying things like this, oh, they will never accept me. They will never understand me. Like, it was definitive statements of absolute truths. And I remember certain friends of mine saying, you don't underestimate them. They love you, they're your parents. And I'd be like, no, you don't understand. When it comes to their religious paradigms or their religious beliefs or what they perceive as right or wrong, they will not budge, right? I had that real strong conviction. And what I was shown was the work that I needed to do in order to bring harmonization to the connection. So it took a while, it took a few years, and it took probably a year and a half, actually, not a few years, probably took a year and a half or a good year. And that was step one, because if I pretended that it didn't bother me, then it's really difficult to recognize that you want to do anything about it, right? Or to recognize that there's a gap there that can be closed. So the second thing I did was I started to listen to the statements I was making. It will never happen. Very definitive, absolute statements, whereby I had closed off the belief. I had closed my own belief off to reconnection. If you say something can never happen, you're basically saying you don't want it to happen. And I recognized that within myself. I was carrying such strong beliefs about what they would and wouldn't do, what they would and wouldn't believe, what they would and wouldn't accept. Actually, I was doing the rejection and the accepting myself, right? They hadn't done anything. They hadn't changed from their position, but I was drumming up inside all of this, all of my self-beliefs were coming up. So I sat with that, and I really saw that, okay, I am playing a part here. I started to see and accept I'm playing a part. I don't fully know what that part is, but I am involved in this disharmony. in this disconnection, and I am involved, and I am part of the solution and the creation of a new relationship and a deeper relationship. So what can I do? The third thing that I decided to do was to listen to myself speak my truth. Find my truth, actually. That's the third. Find my truth inside. And my truth was, I am more fulfilled, more deeply embodied, more nourished, more excited, more passionate, more clear, healthier, happier, more at peace within myself, more connected at all levels, mind, body, spirit, understanding myself and my world at a much deeper level, feeling much deeper, healed and healing much deeper. And I'm feeling all these so much harmony inside and so much happiness because of the decisions I've taken to change my ways, my lives, my belief systems, my environment, my career, my paradigm, everything. So if I feel like this and other people are unhappy because of their perception of what I'm doing, what am I actually sharing? Maybe I could, if I share my joy, maybe there will be a different response, because at the moment I was keeping all of this joy for myself. I was just like flowing in my own space, setting up my therapy practice, really getting into the therapeutic world and getting, really excited to work with my clients every day, and like the stories of like how they would heal and how, who's going to reject joy? This is my truth. This is how I experience every day. So if I can share this joy with my parents somehow and share a little bit of myself and my life, my day to day, who is going to if you find an issue with somebody's joy and somebody's level of fulfillment, right? And if you have an issue that a person is feeling deeply rewarded and satisfied and excited by and passionate about the work they do, if you have an issue with that, then that's clearly got nothing to do with the person and everything to do with you, right? So I thought maybe I can just share a little bit more of myself. So I started to do that. I started to share a bit more about my day-to-day. And at this point, my parents thought I was just doing therapy on the side part-time. So I would share like a few stories and like recovery stories, and how I was so inspired by one of my clients and how they journeyed and experienced some really deep parts of themselves and healed, and then obviously it triggers some curiosity, it triggers some interest. And then one day after doing this for a little while, I could feel like the field had softened between my parents and I decided that actually I would just sit down and I would express my truth. So the fourth thing I decided to do was find what my actual truthful expression of my inner world was. So I have this beautiful inner world and I'm feeling really good. How do I express it? Through my words. Now, when you need to have difficult conversations, however expressive you are, it's not always easy because you perceive the conversation to be difficult. So I decided I was going to kind of rehearse what I was going to say. And it was really simple. When I sat down with myself and I said, okay, what is my truth that I need to express to, in particularly my mum, not my dad. My dad was kind of like already on board. He'd experienced the craniosacral work. He'd recovered really fast from gout. He'd seen the difference between the track he was going on versus when he was going to the GP versus the track that he actually experienced, the recovery track when he was working with me. And he didn't need any more convincing in a way. He was already connecting with this level of depth in his own way and opening up his mind because his body had reacted and responded, right? So I sat my mom down and I spoke a really, really clear truth, which was, because I knew she disapproved of what I was doing and she was trying to wind my dad up in the background and be like, oh, what's she doing? Look at her, she's wasting her time. Like, I knew that she was doing this wind up job in the background to try to get more disapproval of what I was, of my career. So I said, my truth is not to do with any of that, although I recognize that that's happening. What my truth is very simple. And I spoke it. And I remember the day so clearly because it was a sunny day. And I called her up and I said, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to me. Would you like to hear it? And she said, yeah, of course, as all mothers do. They always want to hear what you have to say. And in that way, I was asking for permission. Like, are you ready? It might not be important to you. I'm not going to assume it's important to you. It's important to me. Are you ready to hear something that's important to me? Right? I'm not going to make it about you. And she was. So I was like, okay, that's great. The next thing I did was I said, I want you to know that I am incredibly fulfilled and rewarded and excited and passionate about the work I do in this healing field. And I am happier and more at peace and more fulfilled and joyful now than I ever have been in my entire life. And I know that that's only going to grow. And I know that this is my purpose and this is my work. And I'm growing this within myself for myself. And I'm feeling your acceptance, because whether or not you accept, I will still be joyful. I'm here to ask you if you would like to share in my joy. And I was really blown away. I said those exact words, and I was really blown away by her response, which was so sincere. And I said, this is what I said. I said at the end, I said, I would love your support for what I do. Of course I would. You're my mother. But I do not need your support for what I do. And she said, of course you have my support. For anything you do, you're my daughter, and I support you in anything and everything you do. And it was mind-blowing for me, right? Heart-shattering, because it was the first time in my life that I had ever heard that level of complete acceptance. I accept everything and anything that you do. I support it. Like, wow. For me, that was huge, right? It just completely cracked my heart wide open. And I just was like, wow, this is amazing that somebody who's coming from a completely different paradigm, who has their own reasons and justifications for thinking and believing the way they do, can fall into an acceptance of somebody else that is living a completely different world, right? It's like chalk and cheese. And since that day, I shared myself like much more deeply. Instead of hiding what I was doing, I would really share. And I would, this is the other thing that I learned on my journey of reconnecting with my parents, was because I knew that we were living different paradigms of reality, right? I recognize that the more I share of myself and my life, the more understandable and relatable I can become. Otherwise, I get further and further away. And then the speculation increases about what I'm doing and what I'm not doing and who I am, blah, blah, blah. And it creates more speculation in the field, just creates more mental orientation, more mental processing, which creates more density. And you're there to harmonize the field between, well, I wanted to harmonize the field between my parents and myself. So I shared my day, and I would like call my mum up and like tell her stories about, obviously retaining confidentiality, but just telling like general stories about like what I'm discovering and the work I'm doing, and like how amazing my clients are and like what they're healing from, just general things. And she'd be really interested. Be like, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know that you could heal like how do you work with chronic pain and like chronic backache, and oh, what about that? And what about that? Can you do that? And I thought, wow, this is really fun. Like, we're having a conversation that's built and based on curiosity and connection and openness and not knowing and sharing. So by sharing myself and my day, I brought my parents closer into my world, yeah? Then, more recently, I would start to share, like, my dad is 80 and my mum is 70, right? They're not tech entrepreneurs by all means, right? They're definitely not. And they're not, I mean, my dad can send emails, like he does email. My mum browses the internet really well, but they're not tech savvy. But I realised that I'm doing a lot of tech orientated things on my platform, a lot of automations, a lot of integrations. And if somebody asks me what I'm doing, especially my parents, they ask me, like, oh, what have you been doing? I can assume that they will not understand and they will not be interested and not want to connect, right? And just go, oh, you know, just like work stuff, and fob it off completely. Or I can use that question as an opportunity to just genuinely connect in again and share again myself, even though I know it's going to be alien, like setting up videography equipment and video editing, like totally alien. But I decided again, you know what, I need to share myself, because if this is such an important part of my life and what I'm spending hours and hours a week doing, which I have been, by the way, which I'll talk about in another video, let me share. So I did. And again, it led to a deeper reconnection, a really deep sense of my parents being able to understand, oh, okay, like that's interesting, that's what you do, oh, okay, and we start to reconnect on a different level. And then, you know, maybe I can help you with that. Maybe there's, what tech stuff do you need help with? So we start to communicate differently. And sharing myself has also allowed them to share themselves more in different ways than before, rather than just in parental ways, you know, where parents want to make it appear that they always know what's right and they always have everything together. So the reason why I'm talking about this topic is because I've noticed from lots of conversations that I've been having recently that a lot of the harmonization of the parental field is inherently based on this perception of not being accepted. So most people that I work with feel that their parents don't truly understand them, see them, or accept them. And my message to you, if you feel like that, is that I felt like that too, and genuinely believed it. And the way I changed it was by what I've just explained. So you can change, and you can change your entire relationship with your parents and really fall into a deeper acceptance where you feel seen, where you feel acknowledged and accepted and respected for who you are. But that requires you to seek who you are. When you seek who you are, which is an inside job, find yourself deeper, you can start to not just express that, which is really important, being able to express your truth, not what you perceive to be your truth, but your actual embodied truth. And then secondly, you can live it. A lot of the reason why you might find yourself not being fully accepted, seen, or recognized is because you are not fully integrated yourself in what you believe, what you think, what you feel, and how you live and what you say. When that is in alignment, it's like a stream. People cannot help but fall into a stream. It flows so fast, it's so straight, and it has so much promise and direction and clarity that it's very difficult for to not fall into that stream. And when you fall into the stream, you feel it and you know it and you get it, right? So a practice that you can start if you're recognizing that you're kind of like an alien compared to your parents, they don't understand anything you do, you don't feel seen and connected to them, you don't feel like what you value, they value. It's time to recognize your inner alignment, first of all, then your capacity to speak your truth based on your inner alignment. How much of yourself are you truly sharing? Are you truly sharing what you believe and why? Or are you hiding it? Are you sharing what's important to you? Or are you sharing what your beliefs are about a particular event in the news? Yeah. Everyone has this, humanity has the same level of we all value the same things deep down. Beneath all of the headlines, beneath all of the noise, beneath all of the mental stuff, what do we value as humanity? It's the same qualities, right? You know, basic, fundamental things like we do all value safety for ourselves. Might not value it for anyone else, but every human has within them the same spark of needing safety, right? Anyway, that's another video. So the point is recognizing where you can express what you value. Yeah. Especially at a time like now where there's lots of worlds colliding, paradigms colliding. If you can find a common value, yeah, then you can meet there in that place. So you communicate that, first of all. When you also allow yourself to live your truth, fully live your truth, and enjoy living it, if you're living your truth and it's excruciating and it's creating more pain, drama, disconnection, confusion for yourself, that will be felt. It will be very difficult for the outside world to believe you and believe in you, right? And it will be difficult for your parents to believe in you because they are inherently going to worry about you. They are inherently going to be a little bit fearful because you're their child, right? So if you are living a life that you feel is creating more disharmony for you, you can't expect anybody else to accept that because you clearly don't accept it yourself. So find your own way to gradually and slowly start living more in alignment with what you believe and what you value. Then your life will fall into a harmony. And as I said, it's very difficult for anybody on the outside to take an issue with somebody that is living in harmony. Because harmony is alignment and peace and flow. Even in the word harmony, you can feel it. Alignment, peace, and flow. It's carefree. So, you sharing what you love, how you want to connect with your parents can be really supportive and help them to understand also how to connect with you, how to connect with themselves. So, if you don't want to connect through judgment, then you can say that. You can say, I don't feel like we connect when we're judging each other's belief systems, for example. I feel like we connect when we're having a laugh or having a good time or having speaking something that we're both really passionate about, even if we disagree. So finding ways to vocalize uncomfortable inflections in dialogue or in the field. Just vocalize it and put it out there and see what happens. And also just hold the light for yourself. Hold the light up that anybody at any age can change their way that they connect and their belief system, right? And there are two people in the world that want to love you and be able to love you and connect with you at a deeper level every day. And those two people are your parents, right? And I'm not talking about ego level connection and love. I'm talking about soul. Because at the ego level, it's very difficult to understand, how do these two people want to connect with me? Doesn't really look like it, right? You've got to also do your part, and your part is starting to see them. So you want to be seen by them, you want to be recognized and accepted. Do you accept them? Do you accept your parents for the way they are, for what they feel, and for what they've done, particularly if they have enacted against you? Can you find the reason and the purpose for that? And this is a very deep journey of inner healing. If you can't accept your parents, who you have chosen to be your parents, then it's very difficult for you to accept your purpose. And then coming into alignment, full alignment, to living your purpose, because this is an existential question and an existential drive to live your purpose and to live, becomes much more elusive as a goal. Yeah, it doesn't become your priority, your goal, and therefore your fuel for life, your fuel, your fire becomes waned, because your capacity and desire to live life is not based on purpose. It's based on something far more diluted. Yeah. So this is a journey. This is not a overnight fix. That's the key thing. And if you want to hear more about this, you can listen to my podcast, which I've made, called What If Our Parents Were Actually Our Children? And How to Heal with Our Parents. These are 2 podcasts that I've published on Camilla Healing Podcast. Check them out. And I'm talking about similar topics, but in a little bit more depth. So accepting who they are, your parents, who they are within the construct of the ancestral line, because your parents were somebody else's children and grandchildren. And therefore their inner child, it's much easier for you to feel like you can accept whatever's happened between you. Again, it's a practice. It's a journey. And until you recognize how this relates to your own healing journey and your own health, your own roots, your rooting, your anchoring, your stillness, and your purpose, it will be a cerebrally orientated concept, not an embodied, real life, somatic drive. Like, I need to feel that. I feel it, right? That's very different. So check my podcast out if you want to listen to those. And if you're interested in healing more deeply with your family, this is why I run my family reconstellation program. Because families have been constellated in a particular consciousness structure. And once the family comes together, it's very difficult to break or remodel that particular structure, because it's quite dense, right? People, it's like a collection of individuals that have learned how to interact together in a certain way. So I work with families as a whole so that they can actually heal together. And I work with all the nervous systems at the same time, which means I support parents to feel more deeply each other, beyond the words, beyond the ego. Can you actually feel what this person, who they are, what their needs are, what they are, how they're moving in the space, and why? And that changes people's relational capacity, and it changes the entire family field when they start to also reconnect and feel their children in a different way. So everything starts changing, right? Because most of how we act is based on how we feel. Yeah, as much as humans love to be in the mind and believe that they're rational actors, very little of human behavior is based on rationale. I mean, you can look at what's happening in the world today. It's based on emotion. What are the emotions? The 2 key drivers of all behavior, really, is fear and love. So, that's a video for another time. Fear and love. So if you're interested in my family reconstellation program, I work with all your nervous systems at the same time. I'm the only healer who does this sort of work when it comes to family work. Most people work individually. There's no point, the way I see it, in working just on a child if the parents don't change. There's no point just working on one parent, because that parent has to go back into the same relationship or the same marriage. So if you really, really want to take your family to a new level of consciousness, a new depth of harmony, and if you're really interested in growth for yourself and for your family, then this is the program to start participating in and start getting involved in. And the last thing I want to say is that it's so important to recognize that family is like a tree. That's why you see like family tree. It's growing, you're growing, it's alive. And if you just do this like material realm, okay, just have a partner, have children, send them to school, come home from work, feed the children, watch TV, go to bed, go back to work, repeat, rinse and repeat. what you're actually doing is at an individual level, you're not growing. How do you support your entire family to grow with you together? It's like growing a really big tree, right? The environment is even more important. And this is what I recognize by working with my clients, that they're doing such great healing work, and then they go home and they have to go back into the same environment, which hasn't changed. And yes, a lot of the time they will change their environment because of the healing work they've done. They'll change their lifestyle, they'll change their diet, they'll change their habits, their belief systems will have changed. They'll be able to relate deeper with their partner because they can relate deeper and connect with their body. So it's beautiful. But sometimes you do need explicit work to be done. You need dynamics to be made explicit within the family and reharmonized. So this is particularly useful if there have been big events, big shock events, big traumas, deaths, bereavement, separation, illnesses, birth trauma, in utero trauma. If there's been a lot of disconnection between various family members, particularly between the parents, and it's affected the children, it's affected your children, it really doesn't matter. It can also just be because you want to, it doesn't always have to be repair, right? Healing work is not about repair. That's my point. It's about growth. It's about growing this beautiful constellation into something that is such a joy to be in, and is such a wonderful mystery about where is it growing next. And I've got a question, do the family members have to be present? No. This is the beauty of the work, right? The family members do not need to be present. I show you their presence in the field, I show you their nervous system, and you'll feel it. So I work with you, and usually it's the mother that comes to do this work. But I am increasingly getting couples that come together to do this work, which is beautiful, because what they're doing is they're taking co-responsibility, right? They're co-creating. That's what a couple is. It's a co-creation. So if it's only the woman doing the work and the man's there going, I don't need to do any healing work, I've got nothing to heal, there's nothing going on here, it's like, well, who's carrying everything now, right? And a lot of women have been used to, historically and generationally, culturally, psychologically, the feminine has been used to carrying emotionally a lot on her own, yeah, because of the depth of feeling that she has. So she carries. And so if you've created that dynamic in your relationship and in your family where you're doing all the inner work, they're not doing anything, they're not growing, your partner's not growing, not changing, not going inwards, just wants to stay the same. Their role is to go to work, put food on the table, and do some DIY, right? As the woman, you are holding the nervous systems and the emotional systems and the dynamics of basically that whole family within your body, within your nervous system, right? So inherently, that's a responsibility, a big responsibility. Yeah? This is the role historically of the woman, the feminine energy. And my point is, it's really supportive if you can get your partner on board, because they are inherently critical to the consciousness structure of your family. Yeah, it's not just you. It's not just your child, right? That's why I refuse to heal children on their own. I will not heal a child on their own without working with the parents or a parent. Usually it's the mother, but often it needs to be the father. And you feel like you're holding the emotional systems of 4 people. Yeah, and then what happens, exactly, and what happens is then you start to feel like your partner is your child often, because you're holding all of this emotional awareness and trying to juggle sensitive feelings and sensations, and you're looking at it all, you're feeling it all, and then who's supporting you? That's the point. Family reconstellation work is a powerful way to heal and grow as a family. Who doesn't want to grow as a family? Mind, body, and spirit. I don't know. If I had children and a partner, which I don't, but if I did, I would not want it to be a static, still constellation. I would want it to have a heartbeat. I would want it to have momentum, flow. I would want it to be a dancing field of mystery, of growth, of expansion. That's what I would want. And if I recognize that actually that's not happening, we're getting stuck in the same old patterns. Relationally, we're stuck in the same old patterns of behavior. My children are feeling the same thing, and they've been feeling this for the past X many years. Like, is that not a call to you to start to do something for the family? And what happens is this material paradigm that most people live in is they go, oh, okay, we're all stressed. Let's go on holiday. We're stressed. Let's get a holiday. Oh, we need a break. Let's go on a break. Right? So go onto Skyscanner and book a trip to the Algarve. Right? It's great. It's lovely. But you know what? You're going to go to the Algarve with the same set of problems, and you're going to come back from the Algarve with the same set of problems, because you're not changing your consciousness. You're not growing. Right? You're escaping. That's the difference. So the point is, you can reconstellate your entire family. And if you've invested, and it is an investment, you've invested financially, emotionally, psychologically, at an identity level in creating this family, you've invested yourself and what you could be doing, then you might as well create a alive, growth orientated, beautiful, connected constellation, right? Where you heal the fear, where you heal the illness, where you heal the disconnection, and you come together in a completely new way. You don't have to do that forever, right? You do that at certain inflection points where you know there's repair and there's healing work that needs to be done, or we really want to grow, we really want to be like this together, but we're not. Do the family members then feel it in the same way? Yeah. So I often, when I work one-to-one with my clients, often the children feel the effects immediately, because children are very receptive and open energetically. They feel. And especially when the child is below the age of 7, they basically mirror the mother's nervous system. They're a total mirror. They also mirror the father's, but not as much as, what I've noticed is not as much as the mother's. So they are mirroring, and that's why people often feel like, wow, my child is like teaching me so much about myself. Yes, because they're showing you yourself. So if I can support my client's child to heal through my client on a one-to-one basis, often it allows the child to connect with a parent in a heartfelt way, rather than connecting into trauma, a heart that's holding trauma, grief, anger, and maybe a heart that's just rock solid. Like, a child can't connect with that. It will always feel the disconnection and the block. So when I do my work directly with families, we work directly with the children's nervous system, the partner's nervous system, and you feel it changing in the field. Yeah, you don't have to wait for the next day. I will show you the change. I will show you the trauma being released from their system, and you will feel it in the field. Yeah? So who doesn't want that? So anyways, it's so fascinating. I know it is fascinating. It's very difficult work to write about as well. That's why I just talk about it, because it's so much easier. Oh, there's a butterfly. Bright green butterfly. Thank you for coming. Butterflies are my good omen. They always come to tell me when I'm saying something or doing something that's aligned. The butterfly comes. So anyway, some of you here are already enrolled in my family reconstellation program. And the family can be, most people will work with their partner and children. Some people will want to work with their siblings and their parents. That can be done too. Severance in the family, or a split, divorce, separation, and one of the other partners does not want to do anything, i.e. does not want to heal, does not want to grow, does not want to self-reflect, does not want to change any of their behaviors, any of their ways, and they are very insistent on repeating the same self-destructive behavior. What that does is it makes it harder for the child, because the child is inherently reflective of both nervous systems. So if one partner has just removed themselves completely and does not want to be involved, the break that creates, it is harder to support that child's nervous system because they're 50% of the partner. Yeah? So doing this work is very powerful, especially if you start early and you get your family on board early. Yeah? Do they have to know about it? It's a really interesting question. I get this question a lot. Do they have to know about it? Does my partner have to know about it? Now, I just want to reflect that question back, right? Essentially what you're saying is, or what you're asking, beneath it, it's like there's a desire for you to grow and for you to harmonize. And yet there's the fear of even talking about growth and harmonization and healing. And if you're in that environment where you're worried about even approaching or broaching the topic of growing, of healing, of self-awareness, of deepening embodiment, of being in our bodies, of safety, of nervous system harmonization and soothing, of love, if you are worried about broaching this topic of love in your own family, take that back in to yourself and go, okay, what really needs to be done? If I am unsure about how I could even bring this up, whether I even need to tell them, like, why would you not want to? That's the question that I've got. Why would you not want to? These are the people that you have chosen to make family with, to be family with, intimacy, love, connection. What does family mean to you, right? So it is a journey, right? This work is not mainstream, for sure. It's far from mainstream, and it will be very foreign. If you want me to answer that question more frankly, do they have to know about it? Children, no. You're not going to explain to a 2.5-year-old, darling, we're going to be doing some somatic reintegration of your birth trauma and getting some support from the ancestral field to really support the entire family, you know? We're not going to do that with a 2.5-year-old. Children don't need to know anything. Teenagers, I would really be interested, if I had a young teenager, like a 13, 14-year-old, I would be really interested in how they feel their bodies and how connected they feel to their body, and whether they're able to notice their inner world, their inner landscape, and feel shifts and tell me how they're feeling emotionally. So I'd be really interested in that. So I would personally want to tell them, you know, we're going to be doing this. It'd be great to know like how you're feeling on a daily basis, rather than, oh, how are you feeling, darling? How's school? Oh yeah, it's great, mum. Oh yeah, it's fine. Oh, okay, great. Have you actually felt into their body about how they're actually feeling, right? Or if they're even in their body. So when it comes to partners, do they need to know? I say yes. Because I want to work with, I'm saying yes, the effects will be, if you change the field will be changed, right? You can only do so much without the other partners being involved, right? You can't change a person without them wanting to change themselves. You can change the way you relate to somebody. That's different. You have certain perceptions of your partner, you have certain perceptions of your family, certain ways of relating, and you can change the way you relate, but you can't change them. They may change because of the way you adapt your connection. They may adapt themselves in terms of their behavior, unconsciously adapt, right? That's fine. That happens all the time, right? And it's really important for some people to work like that, right, at the beginning, because a lot of their disconnection with their partner is actually because of their trauma, especially if it's womb trauma, especially women who are working through womb trauma, sexual trauma, and have to do the one-on-one work individually themselves before they start to for them to relate to their bodies differently and then relate to their partner's body differently, and then change the relationship starts changing, right? So yeah, a lot of the time that's what happens first. But for the family reconstellation program, personally, I want to work with couples that are conscious, where they're conscious that they are in a co-creation. I would want my partner to be supported by her. I would want my client to be supported by her partner if she's doing and investing all of this, big emotional work, that she also feels like her partner is equally invested, right? So I would tell him, but I wouldn't expect him to go. Yeah, so that's common. That's common. So I've almost reached an hour. Thank you so much for joining me. And what I'm planning to do is set a specific day and time. And I'm aware that you guys who are tuning in from the US are catching this on the replay. So, and I really want to catch you live. So I'm trying to find a time where I can go live. That is, that meets us in the middle, the UK and the US at least, somehow. So I'm looking at my schedule to do that. So yeah, that's a wrap for now. And finally, if you haven't already, please join me for my next group healing session called Brain Dead. So it does what it says on the tin. I'm a very straightforward person. Most of what I do is very straightforward. You will become brain dead. It's a good thing, trust me. You will become more at peace. The monkey mind, the thoughts, it will all come up and it will be shown to you, and then you will decide, you know what, that's just garbage, let it go. And you will experience a very still mind / no mind. No mind. Never mind. If you've never experienced no mind, come and let it happen for you. It's a very, very powerful way to go and flow through life. You can do some of your best work from a place of no mind. So that's what brain dead is. I'll also be doing certain attunements with the brain. You would have heard about neuroplasticity and how it's always possible to reshape the brain, and the brain is reshaped and rewired through what? Experience. What kind of experiences? Somatic experiences, energetic experiences, depth of experience, not thinking. Yeah? You can think your way to a new mind, a new brain, and it will take you a long time. You can have the experience, and it's like that. Why? Because you only believe what you have experienced. If you've never experienced peace, you won't believe peace exists. If you experience peace in your body, inside at a deep level, you know it exists. You believe there's pathways, neurological pathways to a still nervous system. Can't wait to be brain dead. I love that. Can't wait. I really can't wait either. Gosh, I'm like, can it come already? Can it come already for us? So, all right, everyone, lots of love. I'm gonna catch you all next time, and thank you all so much for listening, and let me know in the comments if you are harmonizing your connection with your parents and you found this useful, or you are finding ways to reconnect with who you are, version 2, 3, the growth version of who you are. You want to reconnect with that version back into your family, back into your parental field. Just let me know how it's going and what you're encountering and what you're finding useful to bring yourself closer into an authentic relationship. And bear in mind, we're always doing this because we're always growing. So we're always seeking ways to reconnect. So I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been interesting. And if you want to join my family reconstellation program, you can get in touch with me on my website. And I will see you soon.